Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's get warmed up with a little two voice. We'll start with plain of attorney. Ready? What position was it that you hired Ms. Ross for at Bill West, the branch manager job, and did you make it clear upon hiring her what the agency did? Yes. What was your understanding of what Bill West agency did? It was a service agency. How had Ms. Ross heard of your company prior to applying for the position? She knew someone in the company who told her of the job opening. Who was that person? I don't recall. Was it Jill Morris? That might have been the person. I seem to remember a different name. Could it have been that you knew Jill Morris by another name? That could be it. You don't recall a Jill by another name? No, I don't. Could it have been Jill Phelps? As a matter of fact, I knew Jill Phelps had married. Her name might have been Morris, but I don't think that was the same person who recommended the job to Ms. Ross. Do you have any reason to believe it was not this person? I seem to recall a different name. Did you know whether Ms. Ross was married when you hired her? I knew she was not married. Right, onward. Some four voice practice. And we will start with the plain of attorney. Ready? Let's get back to your football experience for a minute here, okay? You played in high school? Yes, I did. That's at Morro Beach or at Orange? That's at Orange. What league were they in? West League, West League, WEST. Yeah, how well did they do in the top 10? For how many years? You mean the year I was there or just in general? Orange High School in general. They don't make it to the playoffs often. Well, you went to Orange from 10th to 12th grade, right? Yes, I did. How many years did they go to the playoffs? I don't know. Out of 3 years, they made the playoffs twice, I believe. How big a high school is Orange? How big was your graduating class approximately? Oh, graduating class, well, I don't know. I would guess probably 1,500. Pretty big then. Oh, yeah, it's a big school. I don't know. All right, what position or positions did you play? I played fullback. In your senior year, you were on the varsity team, is that right? Yes, I was. And your junior year, you were also on varsity? I played junior varsity. Did you play varsity in your senior year? Yes. And in 10th grade, did you play on the freshman team? Yes. In your senior year, where were you starting? First string. I actually alternated with another guy. It was me and another guy, and we alternated. In other words, so a person wouldn't be strong enough to carry the ball the whole game, right? No, we were both good. Okay, coach didn't have enough faith in your quarterback to play his own plays? Not in the high school leagues. No, not anymore. What about linebacker? I didn't play that position. Were you the same height or shorter than who? Well, than you are now. I was probably an inch shorter. I haven't grown as much. Did you play any other sports besides football? Yes, baseball. What position? Various positions. Did you play varsity your senior year? Yes, I played my sophomore year on the junior varsity team. What kind of hitter were you? Decent. Well, that's ambiguous. What kind of hitter were you? Well, you can answer the question. Well, did you understand the question? Yes. Okay, I was okay. In other words, you weren't great like Barry Bonds. You weren't one of the worst either. No. What kind of hitter were you in football? That is an ambiguous question, I think. Were you an animal? You don't have to answer that. Do you understand the question? Yes, I understand the question. Okay, go ahead. Were you an animal? Some more practice. Here we go. Actually, sorry, we'll start with defense attorney. Ready? You knew her and recommended her for the position, but you didn't know about her previous problem. That is correct. Was the personnel manager advised of it? I didn't see anything in her records. You never discussed that issue with her. That is correct. You are not sure whether she was advised of it. I don't know if that matter came up. Were you present during any of the hiring interviews? No, I wasn't. Would your company have hired her knowing that she had a prior lawsuit against a company? I don't know. What does your company do in similar cases? That didn't come up since I have been working in personnel. It never came up, not while I was working at the company. Prior to Ms. Ross's being hired, was anyone aware of her prior lawsuit to your knowledge? To my knowledge, it wasn't. Did Ms. Ross seem to have a knowledge of what was going on in your company with regard to another lawsuit pending against your company? I don't know. Did Ms. Ross mention to you knowing her future husband who was working at the company? No, she didn't. Did you tell Ms. Ross of other lawsuits against your company at any point in time while she was employed at your company? I don't recall mentioning any lawsuits. Did you ever tell Ms. Ross about any personnel matters in your company? No, I did not. I don't discuss personnel issues with anyone. How many lawsuits has the company had in any matter such as the one in which the company is now involved? None to my knowledge. There was no other lawsuits of this nature that you are aware of. That is correct. Was there any similar suits? No, not to my knowledge. How long have you been employed with the company? Over 3 years. And did any suits happen after you started? I'm not sure. Okay. Had anyone else interviewed for the position that Ms. Ross was hired for? I wasn't involved in the process. Why was she chosen? I didn't make that decision. Ready? Here we go. Did you know Ms. Ross at the time she was hired? Yes, I did. I referred her to the position. What position was it? There was an opening. Was the opening for branch manager? I believe there was that opening, but I didn't know about it at the time. When you referred her to the position, it was for something else. There were a few openings at the time. I suggested that she just apply. Then you were not recommending her for the job as branch manager? No, as I indicated, I didn't know about that opening. And did you tell her what the agency did? I don't know. I guess that I figured that she knew what the agency did. What was your understanding of what it did? It provided services. You didn't tell her anything more about the agency? She knew where I worked. I assumed that she knew what the agency was all about. Is that how she heard of your company prior to applying for the position? That is correct. Did she know anyone else who worked for the agency? I don't believe so. Did she know Judy Sanders? I don't know. Did you know Judy Sanders? I know of her. I don't know her personally, so it is possible that she might know Judy Sanders. That is possible. Did you know another Judy in your company? I don't recall another person named Judy. I don't know everyone in the company, so you don't know a person by the name of Judy Rios. I don't recall that name. Did Judy Sanders ever go by another name? I don't know if she had a different name. Could it have been that Judy Sanders was known by the agency by another name? That could be, but I doubt it. I have known her all the time that she has been employed. You don't recall a Judy by another name? No, I don't. You don't recall a Judy Rios? I don't recall a person by that name. Do you have any reason to believe Judy Rios was not Judy Sanders? I never heard Judy Sanders go by the name of Rios. Did you know whether Ms. Ross was married when she was hired? She was not married. You know that for a fact? Yes, I did. I was in her wedding. You were in her wedding? Yes, I was. All right, and this one we'll start off with plaintiff attorney. Ready? Here we go. At about what time did Mr. West come back to the station? To the best of my knowledge, it was around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. When he came back to the station, was he driving the same car he was driving before? He was driving the Lexus. Do you remember what color it was at this time? I cannot tell you the color. Where did he drive the car? He drove it up close to our first stall, just ahead inside of the first stall. You had 2 stalls for vehicles in there, that's correct. When he drove it in, yes. Did someone come with Mr. West? A little lady. Was she driving a car? She was driving another car. Where did she park her car? She parked it right in front of the station. Did she get out of the car, if you remember? No. Did you start toward that car? I did start toward the car. Did Mr. Henry West say something? He hollered that was his girlfriend and she was waiting for him. What did you do? I went back inside. Pardon me? I went back inside. Does that mean back in where Mr. West and your son was? That's correct. Did you hear a conversation between your son and Mr. West? Yes. Will you tell His Honor and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what they said at that time? Mr. West said, I brought my car back in to you to put the tailpipe or the exhaust pipe and take it out for a test drive. You have all weekend to do it. What did your son say then, if anything? I don't remember. Was there any other conversation that your son had at that time? No. Mr. West acted like he was in a hurry to get away. Okay, did he leave where your son was? Beg pardon? Did he leave where your son was? Yes. Where did he go? He went out and got in the car with his girlfriend. Then did he leave the station? Yes. Have you ever seen him since then? I have never seen him since then. I wouldn't recognize the guy. You stayed at the station, did you not, until it was quitting time that evening, or did you leave before then? Beg pardon? After Mr. West left, you stayed at the station, correct? I did stay at the station. How long did you stay at the station? I stayed there that afternoon until about 8:30, 8:45. Did you have a conversation about meeting with your son someplace? Yes. Was that at the Western Ballroom in Hyde Park? My son left early and went down to the pool hall and shot a few games of pool. He called me twice from down there wanting me to go out with him. Okay, did you then tell him you would meet him? The last time he called me, I did tell him. You didn't see him again until sometime near midnight, correct? At the time he talked to me down at the pool hall, he came back. I promised him I would go. He came back to the station. He said he called me. He said, Dad, I will come on up to close up for you. You came back and you left. I left and cleaned up. He closed the station up. That is correct. The next time you saw him was down at the Western Ballroom. All right, when you saw him down there, will you tell us when you first saw him, where he was? I had pulled in there with some friends. They had run out of gas in their car, so I left to get some gas to put in their car. As I pulled out on Flower out in the alley, I seen a light behind me moving some, so then I got on down about a block and pulled over. This light pulled up behind me and it was my son. Was your son driving the Lexus at that time? He was driving the Lexus. Was he with anyone? He was with another gentleman. That was Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, correct. At that time, did you have a conversation with your son? Yes, I got out of my car and went back. You went back to where your son was? Correct. And that will conclude our Q&A practice.